But we've seen over the last few decades, obesity rates have gone up at least 3 times. And believe it or not, today, 44% of adults across the world are either overweight or obese.
Today on Expert Answers, we're looking at new research on obesity. You might think that it's a rich country problem, but actually the majority of people who are overweight or obese live in low and middle income countries. And the problem isn't just personal, it can have huge effects on economic and global development. Well, to break this down, we are delighted to be joined by Meera Shekar. She's the global lead for nutrition here at the World Bank. Meera, you've got this new report out all about obesity around the world. Can you tell me how big has the problem of excess weight and obesity become in the past few decades?
So, some years ago, some decades ago, people didn't even think about obesity or overweight as an issue. But we've seen over the last few decades, obesity rates have gone up at least 3 times. And believe it or not, today, 44% of adults across the world are either overweight or obese.
Are there particular regions that are of particular concern to you?
And developed countries have always had a high rate of obesity and overweight. But what we've seen is a rapid increase in Latin America in particular, and it's rather surprising that we've also seen an increase in Africa. We're seeing an increase in South Asia.
I always thought of it as
East Asia as well, countries like Indonesia.
I always thought of it as this sort of rich country problem, but what I was reading in your report is that actually something like the majority of people who are overweight or obese reside in low and middle income countries. What changed in the past few decades, the past few years that has led to this?
Well, you're right. I want to say a little over 70% of overweight or obese adults live in either low or middle income countries. And in fact, for kids, it's shocking that kids under 5, almost 80% of the overweight or obese children live in low and middle income countries. What's changed? Well, lifestyles have changed. We've seen changes in food systems. Access to healthy foods has declined.
Because when I think of nutrition often in low and middle income countries, you think of stunting, malnutrition, but what I'm hearing from you is there's also an excess weight problem. That's a kind of interesting dichotomy there now.
Yes, many of the developing countries, low middle income countries, have had a problem of stunting, child stunting.
Meaning you're not getting enough nutrition.
Meaning you're not getting enough nutrition, and that has an impact on their productivity, on their brain development, and so on and so forth as well. So now suddenly we're seeing countries that have what we call the double burden of undernutrition and obesity.
So I think we all kind of understand the health effects that being overweight or being obese can lead to, but help me understand, what are some of the issues that economies face when their populations become overweight or obese?
So obesity, as you know, is linked very closely to increasing what we refer to as non-communicable diseases, cardiovascular diseases, cancers, diabetes, so on and so forth, all of which means higher healthcare costs, higher absenteeism from work, which leads to lower productivity, and of course, all of that adds up to lower national productivity as well.
Well, on that, what can we do from a policy point of view, from a governmental, from a developmental point of view, to address this problem?
So let me say that the evidence base on addressing obesity is not crystal clear, but there are some areas that seem to be very promising. Among them is improving food systems. More women are going out to work, which is a great thing, but it means there's less time to produce, to cook.
To cook from
food
scratch.
From scratch. So these healthy foods are being replaced by these unhealthy foods. So the other one that many countries, in fact 48 plus countries, are currently experimenting with are fiscal policies around taxation on unhealthy foods. Sin taxes on unhealthy foods, sugar sweetened beverages, other foods that are very rich in sugars, high fat foods, so on and so forth. I think the evidence on that from some of the countries, particularly Mexico and Chile, is encouraging.
What about labeling and changing the way food?
So yes, so that's the other thing, what we call front of package labeling for foods, especially processed foods. That's starting to happen too in many countries. Again, Chile has done a fantastic job of doing really great front of package labeling.
So last question for you, what can we do about this problem? What's the best way to address this?
So everybody asks for one magic pill or a magic solution. Unfortunately, there is none.
Yeah.
What we've learned from the experience that we have to date is that you want to bring these policies together.
Well, I don't want to hold you too long, but I really am grateful for your time. Thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
A huge thanks to Meera for her time. If you want to see more of her research, head on over to worldbank.org. In the meantime, tell us what you liked about the episode, what you didn't like, leave a comment below, send us an email, expertanswers@worldbank.org. Until next time, goodbye.